Hello and welcome back. I've been having a fiddle around with the layout and I've done a couple of things this week. I've put in an extra gantry on these sidings next to the engine sheds, but I've only done that as I've increased the length of the siding by a few centimetres here, and that was primarily to get the blue Pullman in here, just the three cars, the power car, dummy car and the centre car. And as I've had the catenary out here, I've taken the opportunity to do some more testing with it. So I've got my model of the Bobo electric there, R753, and this one's been in the wars a bit. It's had some modifications done in the past before I had it, but it's a very good model for testing how the catenary works. So if you have a look at the insert pictures there, you can see I've made some unique pieces here for to make this section up here, so I can just get the blue Pullman in here without leaving it trailing on the points at the far end of the siding there. I think you can see that in the inserted picture as well. I'm just struggling a little bit for the words. Over there, just beyond the cable drums, she just leaves the nose pointing out over there. So we've done that, and I thought I'd take the opportunity in increasing the length just marginally of the siding just next to it. So they aren't the only unique pieces of track on the layout. I've done a number of pieces. I think I've shown them in the video before. I've got a special cut piece at the end of the suspension bridge there. And I think between the point work behind the gasometer, there's a bit cut to length there, and certainly coming off the turntable there, those curves are cut just to fit so I can get the rails parallel. But I've had a good time with that. And we'll have a look at the Bobo electric running with the coaches sitting at the station in a little while. But what I've also done, I've been going to do for ages, is put some of this trackside fencing in, which I'm very pleased with. I've got two slightly different sorts. It came along in well, it was available from '63 right through into the late 90s, I think. But primarily the ones I was interested in were these clips which fit Super 4. These are the universal ones, I think, which fit in the Super 4 and the System 6. But I was really after some of the earlier clips, which we've got right down here at the other end of the layout. I'll try and move a little bit more slowly. There we go. So I managed to get hold of a couple of packs with these Super 4 clips. Not a great deal of difference, but just something I wanted to get hold of. And I've been wanting to finish off the edge of the layout like this into this curve for quite some time, and it just goes into there, and I think that finishes that off quite nicely. So I think what we'll do is we'll get this Pullman into the siding. Now I've created it long enough, so we'll nip back round to the controller and we'll get her out here and over to the sidings. And there we can see she's almost up to the buffer stop there at the end of the siding. Quite pleased with that. And importantly, if we look down the length of the train there, we can see the whole thing's now safely within the siding. So I think it was well worth just extending that siding and taking the time to do the one next to it for future use. So we can see there the nose of the Pullman there is safely within the siding, leaving it clear and safe for something to pass through this branch of the point there. So in a moment, I think we'll get this old Bobo electric out around the layout through the points, and we'll bring her up to the station here and pick up this rake of blue and grey coaches. We've got the Pullman, not the Pullman, sorry, the utility van here, and we'll get those off around the layout and have a look at coming through several sets of points and around and have a look at that pantograph in action. Just before we move on, we'll have a swift look at the trackside fencing and the couple of different clips that I have for it. So this is the 63 catalogue, the first year in which trackside fencing became available. Let's have a swift look at the top of page 31 here, see if I can hold this still enough to read. So we've got R.299 Trackside fencing, 2 times 1 foot lengths with 4 base clips. There's the length in centimetres, available summer 1963, so you just get the 2 pieces plus 4 clips. I think later in 1980 they changed the packet and it came with 4 pieces of fencing and 8 clips, and then in 88 I think it changed to 6 pieces of fencing, but I think the fence had become brown by that stage, and it was R437, 6 pieces of fencing and 12 clips, but this is from the trying Hornby period, so late 60s, early 70s. So we have 2 pieces of fencing in here, so we just got this brown paper envelope, and we get the 2 pieces of fencing plus 4 Super 4 clips in here. Let's see if we can just pop these out. Put the packet down there. Drop into clips everywhere. Let's see if we can pick all of those up, see if we can get some focus on that. So this fencing does sort of tend to go yellow, some bits are yellower than others. It's very basic. I think it's got 13 posts, and the end posts are like half posts, similar sort of thing to the half sleeper ends in the track work. So it appears as 1. See if we can get that in focus for you. I need to pop that into the track clip at the side of the line. So we'll pop that down. We'll just have a look at these clips. So you get 4 of these. They're very, very similar to the catenary mass clips. They clip quite positively into the Super 4 track. Let's have a swift look over that, see if we can get focus on there. So they're in brown. I think they changed to black at some stage and possibly back to brown again. I think they stayed brown when they were Super 4. I think we've just got made in England, and we've got a product number there, R.299 and Triang on the base of that clip. So quite nice to see all that printed on there, very, very tiny. So there is a Super 4 one plugged into the track as it's supposed to be. I think this will quite happily go into Series 3, but it tends to sit just off the baseboard a little, whereas this sits flush with the bottom of the track bed, the sleepers there on your baseboard. So that's quite nice and positive in there. So when we have the change to System 6 track, 1970 and onwards, obviously we get much finer scale track. Look at the difference in that. So the clips are going to have to be changed. So it has had to be changed, because there's no way this is going to go into the track. And I believe they just sold the trackside fencing pack as R299U for Universal, and these clips had gained a hole for a track pin. And whilst these fit quite nicely they're quite positive there in the System 6 track, when we see them in the Super 4 track, they're a little bit waving around between the sleepers there, aren't they, and between the track bed. So I think that pin there pinhole is very, very important to hold them onto your baseboard. So I believe that these possibly started life as brown in the early 70s, then went black at some stage, but I've got a few of both now, and I think they look pretty good on the layout. They both hold the fencing quite nicely by the side of the rails. And we'll just switch point 16 there in front of the Pullman, so we can get the Bobo electric out onto the inside line. Now this model R753 came along in the mid-60s and was part of the amalgamation between Triang Railways and Hornby 00, and remained in the range with a number of variations through until the early 70s. Nice and smoothly through the point work there. And then we'll switch points 18 and run around the layout and pick up those coaches at the station. And you can see the paintwork's very crude. It's been done by brush by the looks of it, and it's got some additional tanks and wire detail running along the roof and I have repaired the pantograph as it was broken when it came to me, but it does run very well. Now, I think it could do with some numbers on it, or a BR logo perhaps. I've always been going to do that, but never quite got around to it. Nice coupling there, and then we'll move off nice and gently back around the inside line. We'll get a lovely view of the pantograph working over the next few shots there. We'll be able to see it just going up and down. Some great views from above, nice and smoothly. And you'll see there is quite a lot of groove marks in the skate. It's done a lot of work, this pantograph, so it really is beginning to show its age, but it's a very good model for testing the catenary, that it's all in line and working. Lovely shot here as she comes down the side of the station. I was just thinking about those clips for the fencing. I think they probably started in brown and then went black as System 6 track came along, but they are very similar to these catenary clips if you have a look down there. Yeah, just look at the skate running under the wire there as she comes through the point work. Now into the first radius curve there, and we're going to come through points 7 next to the station onto the outside line. Again, lovely shot there from above. Working right on the edge of the motor here, just trying to keep it from tearing away. It's done really well over those diamond crossings, I think. Around the third radius curve and onto the elevated section now. Lovely noise this model makes, that swish with the skate under the wire. Tiniest wheel slip there as she approaches the top of the incline. Looking beautiful, coming up to the suspension bridge. With a lovely shot of the skate under the wire there. Picking up a little speed as she comes down the elevated section back onto level ground. The utility van looks pretty good with this rake, I think. Off into the distance there. Back under the elevated section. We're going to come through points number 5 now. Back onto the passing loop. Very well behaved through there. And that is about as slow as you can get this to run through this point work. Now I think that's probably it for this week. Thanks again for watching, it's hugely appreciated. If you look back again next time, we'll have something else from the range to look at. Goodbye now.